Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. And we're going to be discussing our application called PSI Access. And our software application, we tend to believe, is a total process safety management tool. And as we go into the various discussions of the various parts of the application, you can see how we manage all your PSM elements within there. So with that, let's kind of get started. So what is PSI Access? It's really a cloud-based application that not only has the web-based portion of it, but also a mobile application that we use to augment ITPM task and a number of other things. And we'll go into each portion of this as we go through this presentation, and then go into the actual application itself to kind of show you how those things are done at a very high level today. You know, today I want to just kind of introduce PSI Access, so we won't be going into a whole lot of detail of how things are done because we're limited in terms of time. We're trying to do all of this within an hour. So we want to make sure that you see the benefits of using PSI Access, but also how those things are managed and carried out in the application. So it is an application that manages all your PSM RMP program information and data in one central location. So it doesn't matter whether you have your company that has 10, 15, 50, 100 facilities. All of them can be managed through the one application, through the one interface. In addition to that, maybe you have a facility that has multiple process units within it. And all of those may be a simple refinery, for example, has 5, 6, 7, sometimes as many as 10 different operating units, all of them PSM covered separately. And so therefore, this application can manage all of those as well, all again in one central management user interface. There are 5 levels of access in our application, and I'm not going to oversimplify this, but we have a company admin that can administer documentation from a company standpoint, and we'll go into a little bit more detail on that here in just a minute. Also, we have facility admin. So a facility admin can be a person that just manages facility data, or it can be a manager of facility, a process within that facility. So they can be an admin for a single a process within the facility, multiple processes, or no processes. They just manage the documentation and requirements from a facility standpoint. And we'll try to make that a little bit more clear when we get into the actual application itself. Then we have the user level. The user are people like operations engineering. The more information we can put in front of our operators and our people within our facility, the more likely they're going to understand and know how to apply process safety management and give them the understanding of what they need to have in place. And also, it gives the managers an opportunity to see exactly what's going on in their facilities or in the process. The other thing that we have here is a contract user. Usually that's an outside user, such as myself. I would be considered a contract user in some of our facilities. And we can talk about the benefits of having that contract user here in just a minute as well. So like I said, you know, it's a total PSM RMP management tool. It manages all your PSM RMP information and data. We store equipment at the data level. So we actually pull in information on each piece of equipment, whether that's an instrument, whether that's a valve, whether that's a vessel, whether that's a tank. It really doesn't matter. We're collecting data on the equipment level aside. So what that means is if you have a vessel, a pressure vessel, you're going to have a MAWP, you're going to have a maximum allowed working temperature. We capture that data within the application. So if you were to ever lose a U1 or whatever the case may be, you still have that process safety information available. Also, we have the ability to attach all your supporting documents. Again, if we use the vessel as an example, we can attach all your drawings, all your spec sheets, any information associated with that vessel can be attached to the equipment file or spec sheet for that particular piece of equipment. We also can create and maintain your cause and effects. For those of you not familiar with what a cause and effect is essentially a document that manages or describes how your critical interlocks or your critical safety devices work. For example, you may have a pressure instrument that reads the pressure. When it reads the pressure and it gets so high, you will get an alarm. After it gets a little bit higher, you're going to have an interlock that would activate, maybe shut down a compressor, say close a valve. All of those are causes and effects that we need to be able to manage. In fact, as I do compliance audits across the country, this is one of the areas that there are the biggest gaps in. A lot of times PHAs are done, they list a safeguard, but then there's no PSI or process safety information to ensure that that is the way it works. And two, hasn't been tested at all. Our application manages that, and we'll show you exactly how this it works here when we look at the application itself. Again, it allows us to manage your critical equipment and critical instruments, et cetera. More than anything, I think it encourages employee participation and provides knowledge. The more information we can get in front of our operations staff and those folks that work with our processes every day, the more knowledge that they have, the more they can give us feedback on where our gaps are, what's missing in our systems. And a lot of times we can get an instrument, or we can get a piece of equipment information in front of the users or the operators, and they can tell us, hey, that's not exactly right. That's not, we replaced that 2 years ago, and this is what it is now. That is valuable information when it comes to process safety. Also, when we do PHAs, we have the ability to have instant knowledge of our PSI, so that as we're going through the PHA and somebody says, well, we have a pump that can only put up X amount of pressure, we can look at the PSI and actually verify that information to ensure that is correct. Now, obviously, trash in, trash out. So if we put in wrong information into our database, then wrong information is going to come out, correct? We're going to talk about that particular item here in just a minute, how we can enhance ensuring that information is correct. Much more easy than we can do it in most of our systems now. In our system, we can manage all inspections, tests, and preventive maintenance, all ITPM. It is not a CMMS or a computer maintenance management system, but we can do a number of those things that CMMSs can do. We can create work orders, we can create ITPM procedures and tasks, and those things can all be managed through this system, and we're going to talk about that when we get to the application as well. It's also a total contractor management tool. So what ISNet World does for many people, we can do as well in this application. It's all embedded in here. We go through the qualification process. We can actually provide the contractors training through our application if they need that training. That includes their site specific. So for example, if you have a number of facilities and you require your contractors to take their site specific, obviously before they come on site, they could actually do this through the application of the software. Once they're approved, they can take that training through there, and it includes a verification of understanding, and those are customizable to the facility or to the process. Also, we can do your periodic evaluations. So if you have contractors in your facility, you know that you need to conduct a periodic evaluation to determine whether or not they're following your policies and procedures as they're required to. We can do those periodic evaluations through our mobile app. So you can go out in the field and actually do those evaluations, and it stores that information. No scanning of documents or anything like that. We can also do a total training compliance, and that's what it is. So we can do all of your training within here. So we can develop your training plans for your operations staff, your engineering staff, and your other people that you want have training. That includes operating procedures, elements, and the importance of those different elements. We can provide information on blended learning or create blended learning topics. general topics, for example, of maybe we want to teach all of our operating staff about double mechanical seals. We can actually create a blended learning course where we can actually bring in an expert and actually do a live webinar like this, where we have that as part of their training. We document that training. Now at the end of this training, we could have a quiz, for example, that we would give you to verify your understanding of how this worked. And from that standpoint of, let's say that we could break that same training down into smaller elements. So we talk about double mechanical seals this time. Well, next time we might talk about a single mechanical seal, et cetera. So we can break those into smaller topics. And we call it blended learning. So it's a combination of live. It can be a combination of virtual like this. It can be a combination of a video. So I can give you a video, then have your operators or staff do certain tasks. And once they completed that task, then they can move on to the next step. All of it with verification of understanding, which is an important part of the application. Also, we have a compliance audit tool, so you can do self-audit. So we have a customizable checklist and audit checklist within there. So you can customize that so you can do self-audits if you want to determine whether or not you're in compliance or not. Management of change is all electronic. MOCs from a company standpoint, facility, and process levels. So we have 3 different levels of MOCs that can be executed. Again, the MLC checklist that we use to determine whether something requires an MOC or not is all customizable to your facility or to your company. Also, we have electronic Pssr systems. So the system essentially is an electronic checklist that goes through each of the elements to determine whether or not those items have been completed prior to introducing chemicals into the facility or into the process. Again, that Pssr checklist is customizable. Normally when we sign or have a new subscription, we give the base checklist. We also provide a base checklist for the MOC, and then you can kind of edit and subtract or add or delete whatever you want to do, customize it the way that you want to have it, but at least we have something as a minimum that you can use. Then we have the mobile app. The mobile app operates on any tablet or mobile device. And I'm going to actually give you a little demo that I will have from my iPhone, that I use my iPhone all the time for the ITPM task. We can do rounds from that mobile app, and we create a round within the web app, and then it can be executed from the web app or from the mobile app. And we'll talk about that in a little bit too. You can do all your PMs, your testing, inspections, etc. There's no need to scan any documents. Now, I know we'll have some people here that have third parties that they use to not only do maybe API inspections and tests, they may have third parties that come in and do their ammonia refrigeration inspections and tests. All of those typically come with a paper document at the end. Well, when we create a contract user, we can actually create all of that within the application where they complete all of that stuff in the field, including any follow-up action items or comments are already uploaded into the system. So we eliminate that time that's spent between receiving a paper document and uploading it to our applications or completing those tasks. We can actually see when the inspector is out in the field, if he or she sees something that needs to be addressed right away, they create the action item within the application and it becomes active right then and there. Also, like I said earlier, we can conduct the contractor evaluations from the mobile app. We also have electronic logs, and we have several of these depending on the type of facility that you are. We can have oil logs where you add how much oil you add or take away from compressors, et cetera. How much refrigerant, for example, I know even in some of the gas plants, adding refrigerant to your compressors, would be something that you would want to log. Secondary media like glycols and how you add or take away, and knowing when you add is important. Determines whether or not we have leaks in our system, et cetera. Again, everything is access based. So you cannot do certain things within the application if you don't have the privileges to do that from a user, operator, admin, contract user, etc. That's the same way with the mobile app as well. So I want to just talk about just the benefits of when we use our app, and this is kind of where we're seeing in terms of benefits. And I just want to hit that before we go into the application. You know, so PSI access increases operations and staff knowledge. I already said that before, and we all know that the more knowledge we have, the more power we have to make a difference in process safety. On average, we're seeing the cost of compliance per facility averages between 15 to 68,000 per year. Obviously, we've come across some facilities in our survey that have been well above that. We have not found any that are below that. In fact, the ones that are right at 15,000 probably weren't doing enough to stay in compliance just based on the survey that we completed. Training and knowledge always reduce costs. The more knowledge we have, the more efficient we are. So that always improves our cost structure. There are no lost inspection reports and findings. Oftentimes in compliance audits, I will find that, hey, we know that we did the inspection and test, or we had a third party do that inspection and test, or we had our operator do that inspection and test, but we can't find the report, or we can't find the findings. Here, it's all done through the mobile app or some other application, so there are no papers to chase down and look for. Again, we have instant inspection results. That can provide valuable insight into potential risk or current risk that you may have. And then we can apply that same knowledge to other facilities. So if we have the knowledge, we can see it in front of us, we can apply that same learning maybe to other facilities or other processes within our facility. Again, there's no need to scan or review reams of paperwork. Third party uploads data directly to our application, including any action items, including any follow-up that would be required. So when we talk about gaps, we normally talk about gaps in our process safety. Again, all operations have access to all of the information, things like your latest P&IDs and equipment information. If they have that information in front of them, if your technicians have that information in front of them, then it's more likely we can spot issues such as P&IDs being wrong or equipment information being incorrect. Operations support can view operations through rounds and ITPM. So if I can see a round that's taken place, I can see back information, I can see information from a round that took place 3 months ago or 4 months ago. I can see trends, I can see other information that helps me to determine whether or not I need to take steps to correct a situation. Again, self-audits can identify gaps, and we can also create simple and easy staff rounds. One of the things that we currently have a client doing is the plant manager does every other week, they do a walk through the facility. So they created a round document that actually have things that they're going to look for during that upcoming round. They can change that round anytime they want. So actually they can check different things this month, and next month check different things or look at different things. Again, PSI process information when it comes to PHAs. Knowing that information is critical. I know you've probably been in PHAs where the facility asked, well, do we have the process safety information to show that or prove that? And we'll make an action item to verify that information before we put it as a safeguard. Well, if we have that information right in front of us, then we verify it. We reduce that time it takes to go out and verify that when it's sitting right in front of us. Again, it's easy to find gaps in your MLC and PSSR programs if you're finding errors in your P&IDs, if you're finding errors in your equipment information. It's easy to find that if you have people with the knowledge and have that information in front of them to use. So now I'm going to go over to the application, and I'm going to show you all of this and how this works for us. Now, hopefully I can figure out how to share this with you. Right now, I'm going to pull up, this is our test application here. So you should see your test application on the screen. And what the user would normally see, again, depending on what you're logged in as, you're normally going to see the dashboard. And this is a fairly simple dashboard in the sense where this person only has one policy that they have to go through. And this action item is to revise this policy. So in this particular application, again, this is our test site. So some of the things you see in here may not be exactly what they should be in there, but this is how we use this to test different portions of the application. So as you can see, we've got across the top, we have test companies. So if I click on the test company icon above, we have policies that are on the company level. We can do a company MOC. We can train on company different policies, procedures, MOC, and then we have safe work practices that are again at the company level. So a lot of facilities will have, especially if you're a larger company, you'll have level 1 documents. And level 1 documents are those that are at the highest level within the company. And then those filter down to the facilities. So that kind of makes sense that we have company policies, company MOCs, company training on those work practices and policies. Then we also have the next level down is the facility level. So we know that we have facility policies, could be an offset or a combination of the company facilities or company's policies. We can also have a facility MOC. We can train within the facility. We can also have safe work practices that are specifically for that facility. Typically, when it comes to employee participation, that is a facility-wide thing. So if you may have 2 different processes here or 3 different processes within your facility, the same employee participation policy normally applies. Contractor management is normally done at the facility level, even though there will be specific elements within the contractor management element itself that pertains to a process. Typically, all your contractor management is done at the facility level. So you don't let people into the gate to go into your facilities unless they've had are qualified in the first place for the facility. Same way with emergency response. Emergency response is facility based. So all of your emergency response and action policies and procedures would be at the facility level. Same way with your risk management plans, your EPA risk management plans, if they apply to you, they're all facility based. Even though they're within there, the different processes are listed, but it's a risk management plan for the whole facility. So again, we went from the company level to the facility level, and now we go to the process level. So within the process level, we have process safety information. And as you could imagine, if you're familiar with PSM, all of it includes toxicity information, process flow diagram, process chemistry. All of these elements are within the process safety information portal or information that we need, okay? Including equipment. And let's go in and click on equipment here real quick. And equipment includes compressors, pumps, condensers, heat exchangers, evaporators. All of the equipment that you can imagine is in here, plus any specialty equipment. So if you have specialty equipment that doesn't fit in any of these needs, we can address that here. So again, if you recall, I said equipment is from a data perspective. So here we have what we put in a compressor. So if I click on that compressor, I've got all of that compressor information right here. So all of that information pertaining to that compressor, including the P&ID it's located, tag numbers, types, and everything else, the brand, the manufacturer, the model number, all of that information is contained within here. Again, we can add attachments to this. So I could add an attachment as I'm building this information here. I could add an attachment and all the attachments that I would want to add as I'm building the piece of equipment. So again, all of the equipment here. So compressors, pumps, vessels. So if you have a vessel, again, if you have a vessel as you're building that equipment, you're going to have all of the information. Is it insulated or non-insulated? What is the service? And we can have different materials in here for service, design volumes. We have your corrosion allowance if it's in here, if it's available or not. Again, we can add the U1, I'm sorry, R1s, any equipment drawings associated with that, all of that within here, so that when an operator sees this, they can actually click on it and view all of the information. So if I had something attached here, they could review that attached document here as well. So if we go over to some more process safety information, for example, all your P&IDs would be here. So you can actually go in and actually view the P&ID that's associated with that piece of equipment. So that one had no view available. So, oh, that didn't work right. So in this particular case, oh, it's a screenshot. So it's not an actual P&ID here. So, so normally P&IDs are saved as a PDF. So all of the P&IDs, if you look here, again, would list all your P&IDs. We can have CAD versions of P&IDs, or we can have red lines. If you see something down here, if you notice, we have something called proposed changes. And this is something to keep in mind when we want to make a change to any of these P&IDs, we would have to do that through an MOC, obviously, right? So we actually can make that change right here. And let's say that we're going to make a change here, and we're going to update that. Remember, that's P&ID 10. So I just put P&ID 10. Now P&ID 10 shows up down here in proposed. Now I can make any changes I want to this P&ID down here in proposed. If you go up in here, 10, I can no longer edit it because it's down here in proposed. So I can't do anything with 10, or nobody else can access 10 until I've actually made this change and completed the change through our PSSR process. In just a minute, I'm going to talk about the MOC and how that MOC actually works. But again, we can have multiple facilities here, or multiple process units within that facility. Again, we have the dashboard. We also have something we call notes. And so this is a place in your application where if you want to conduct meetings with your employees and talk about PSM, talk about safety, whatever the case may be, we can add notes right here in the application. We can add action items in here, and we can document all of those discussions that we have. Now, keep in mind that these notes and viewing of these notes are available to anybody in the application within that company. So if you want to share information across different facilities, this is a place to be able to do that. Action items are facility-based and facility and company-based. So I can have company action items in here that are assigned to this facility, or I can have process. All of the action items are stored in one location. So again, from a responsible person, I am making up names here, but for test, so you can have a responsible person is always responsible for completing the action item. So if I look at the action item itself, I have one person that's responsible. I have another person that is accountable. The accountable person is the person that reviews all of those. Again, in the process, I go through and I can add comments to it. I can add updates. I can add documentation if I want to that. And then once I complete everything, I'd actually close that action item. So if I close the action item as a responsible person, it goes from that person to the person that's accountable to review to make sure that that is acceptable resolution to that action item. And if it is, then the accountable person closes the action item, and it's closed, goes down into archived or closed action items, as you can see down here. On the other hand, if the accountable person reviews the resolution that the responsible person submitted and they don't like how it resolved, they can add a comment and reopen the action item. It goes back to the responsible person with those comments to be able to resolve it in the way that, or address the the issues that the accountable person had. We have a full set of reports. So any report that you could imagine, these are all ad hoc, so you can add different reports that you want and develop your own report as well. We also have, in this particular case, I'm logged on as an administrator. So I have certain things that I can do under the administrator tab that a normal user would not. I can put in company information, all the user registration. I can add new users. I can change their privileges within here if I'm an admin and I have those privileges. I can go through the Pssr checklist. And I'll just click on that real quick. So this is a typical Pssr checklist. So I can add different categories and add questions that I want to ask as part of the Pssr. I can determine whether the data is required or not. So if the data is required, that means that I must complete this item before the Pssr can be completed, and you can add chemicals. We can all, oh, sorry, that was the wrong one. So that's where required for startup. Required for startup means that I've got to have this item done before I can start it up. Data required means that as I'm going through the question, maybe I want them to provide me some data. If that's a particular case, then they cannot complete that portion of the Pssr until they provided that data to you. And this is just the checklist. Again, this checklist can be edited. You can delete these items. You can edit what the question is. You can add as many questions in different categories if you want. So the other part of the checklist, we have a compliance audit checklist, much the same way. We can add different questions within that checklist in the different categories. And again, I won't get into all of the details here. We have some things that you can do on the cause and effect. For example, we can put different processes and where the cause and effect is actually playing a role. We can also do, here's where you do all of your Mlc checklists. Let's start first of all with Mlc approvals and how Mlcs get approved in the application. Right now, because I'm a facility admin, or this Noah is logged in as a facility admin, he can set either the facility approvers or he can set process approvers. So let's look at facility first. So in this particular case, we've got 3 people. We've got a PSM coordinator. We have an approver here. So it's one approver. And because this is a facility MOC, we only have 3 things, 3 categories that they'll actually approve. Normally policies and procedures, organization, and then we have a catch-all for other. So the authorized approver in this particular case is me, with an authorized being David. So the way this would work is anybody can create an MOC. Anybody in the organization that have access to the application could create an MOC. The first person that MOC would go to for approval is your PSM coordinator, and they could make that a quick change, or they could make it a different type of change, or send it back to the requester requiring more information, etc. Once it's past the coordinator, then the approver, it goes to the approver's dashboard where they can approve it or reject it, provide any comments, etc. And then from there it goes to the authorized approver again. They can reject it, send it back, require more information, all of that. Here you can add as many approvers up to I think 8 different levels. So we can have 8 approver levels in the application. Every one of these can be different, and we can change out, maybe for this person wants to do this, we want this person to do this, everybody else is going to do this. Okay, so we can add up to, actually it's 9 levels approval, not including the authorized person. Same way with the process. So in this particular case, we can add approvals for each of the processes. Obviously, within the process, we're going to have different people that can approve that MOC. If you're in a process A, for example, maybe your plant manager or your unit manager is the person that approves those MOCs. So we have those set up for each of the processes within the facility. We talked about the MLC checklist. The MLC checklist, again, much like the PSSR checklist, we have just different questions that you can ask. And again, this is a test site, so we don't have all of the questions obviously here that you'd want to ask is in an MOC. Again, what we're looking for in the MOC checklist are those things that drive us to determine whether or not it's requires a management of change or not. That's the whole idea of the MOC process. PSSR is to make sure that all of those things that we've done to the change in accordance with this MOC have actually been done. Again, the PSSR or the MLC checklist is fully customizable. You can add, delete, minimize it, maximize it, depending on what you want to do. So the other thing within administration, we have the PHA. We actually can do a PHA within the application itself. And normally this is done either in some facilities, we can do a full what if PHA. We can do a full modified HAZOP within the application, but we can also do those PHAs that you would just do for an MOC or a small change. We can attach those actually as part of your MOC or part of your PSSR or part of that change documentation as well. Same way we can manage your incident information. Again, incident information. Again, we do all your reporting for all your incidents in here, so we can get incident approvals. Who actually approves all incident reports for the various locations or various processes within your facility. Also, emergency contact information is all in here. So if you're in the process, we can look at who they need to call. So if these numbers change, we can make sure that the reporting information that your users actually see when they're filling out the report, if it triggers a call, that they have all of that information right in front of them to be able to make that call. So again, that's the application from a really high level point of view. I just want to go into a couple of things now that we didn't touch on, and that's we talked about the pre-startup and safety review, how that, let's just touch on that. Again, let's just touch on operating procedures. So we can upload all your operating procedures here in Word documents or PDFs. We can actually create the procedure within our application itself and then go through the certification process and notifications when it's due to be certified on an annual basis. Even your policies and safe work practices, we can set a review period on those as well, triggering some type of review process to occur. Again, incident investigations, we can require incident investigations. We provide all of the information here, capture all of your information that you need for incidents. PSSR, again, I'm not sure what I've got in here. So let's say if I want to add a PSSR, let's say I want to do it on that MOC, that it would be my PSSR checklist. So in this particular case, I've got some items in here that I threw in here of questions you can ask, whether or not have all the air permits been updated. You simply say yes or no, or whatever the case may be. And then here is where I can add, you can kind of see that these items here in grayed out are actually things that are required for startup. So I cannot change that, where I can change these to determine whether or not I need those for startup. If they're unchecked, that means that I don't need to have them for startup, but I can require them if I want to. This little button over here to your right is an action item. So let's say that I have this particular question to have all your air permits been updated. Let's say that I'm missing something or it's not been done at all. Now I can create an action item. So this particular case, I'm going to put that the action is to create a air permit. And then the responsible person is I can select any one of our users as a responsible or accountable. Then assign it a due date. This is sign date, target date. Maybe say I want to get it done here, and then I save it. So what's going to happen now is that action item is going to show up over in my PSSR. So now if I complete this PSR, which I can't because this is a required item. So I can't complete this PSSR, even though this action item is here. I cannot complete this PSSR because it's required before I do startup. So I have to resolve this particular item before startup. A lot of times we use the action items for things that are not required for for startup. For example, I might want to put an action item here for air permits updated and certified on this one instead. Again, this checklist was done on the admin side. So again, your checklist could be customized to exactly the way you want, including the different categories, the different areas that you want to address. That is totally up to you as to how you develop that. So once all of these items are complete, so let's say that all of them were done, and I said yes. Now I can say that the PSSR is complete. I can check that I certify all the modifications, and then I could actually save this PSSR. And what happens is all of those items, and I'm going to close this because I don't want to get rid of my MLC just yet. So if you recall, I said earlier that you have, let's say that we had a PNID. We had a PNID that we did an MOC on. It would be down here in the proposed. Once I completed the PSSR, that moved that up. And let's see, let's just show that. So we've got right now, this MOC is a test MOC for ITPN task removal. Even though I've got that one here, I believe that my PSSR, I'm going to add a PSSR, and it's for task removal. And I'm just going to click all yes here, saying everything is done. The PSSR is complete. I certify everything is done. Remember that MOC was down in the proposed. So I'm going to save this. And now go back to PNID, those proposed PNIDs. That PNID now is no longer here. It's been moved back up here. Okay, so here is the change right here. So I took the red line, I made changes to that when I completed the PSSR. Now that red line is in the active PNIDs. Obviously, I didn't change it to a red line version, but that's what I would do if I was doing an MOC. So as I make changes, everything is done through the PSSR. Anything that's in proposed would be moved up. So that means everything that we have in all of your equipment. So if we made changes to compressors, to pumps, condensers, all part of that one MOC, every one of those things would show up down here in the proposed as I made those changes. And then once I complete the PSSR, they would be moved up and become the active process safety information that you would need to have. Anything down in proposed, I can delete, I can take away, I can do all of those things to it. But once the PSSR is done, all of that gets changed and updated. Okay, so the next thing I want to talk about, we've already said that from a process standpoint, we can do contractor management from here, so we can do all your pre-qualifications. And since I'm limited on time, I want to be able to go through the mobile app real quick as well. But normally, if you're in contract management, we can do all, like I said, create all your criteria. That's all customizable for your facilities or your process or your companies. We can create a criteria that you would use for every one of your facilities, and that would apply to every one of your contractors. So once we set them up, all you need to do is send an email notification or provide an email notification to the contractors that you want to set up. And that email notification would go to them, allowing them to upload all of their data and provide that data to you. It then comes back to you and you get notification that they've provided everything. So then you have the opportunity for you or someone else to review that information that they provided and either qualify them or reject them or disqualify them. Also have the ability to approve by exception. So if, let's say you have an emergency, you want to bring somebody in, you don't want to go through the qualification process, you just need them in there. we have a qualification by exception as well that can bring in. Now, the thing that we also require as part of our contractor management tool is that the contractor provide a list of all of them employees that they will be sending to our facility or that are approved to be in a facility. In other words, they've had all of the training requirements that you require as part of their qualification. So by definition, when they provide that information on their employees, then we have that information as a facility to know who can be in our plants or in our facilities at any point in time. They're qualified to be there, not just the contractors qualified, but the actual employees. So that fills a gap from the standpoint of, we know that through contractor audits that a lot of times contractor turnover occurs quite often. And as a result, then we may not have a contractor employee coming into our facility that's actually been trained and qualified to be in those facilities. So now I'm going to share the mobile app with you here. Let's figure if I can do this. I have to plug this in. So I'm sharing, you should see my mobile app right now. So on my mobile app, I have something called PSI. So I'm going to click on that, and actually it's going to show you, we're going to go back to the main screen that you would see when you got onto the application. So as you can see, we've got 5 different icons. We have mechanical integrity, we have hot work permit, and actually we're in the process of changing this to be a safe work permit, so it will cover multiple different permitting applications within one. So you can do a hot work, you can do a safe, you can do a line break, you can do several different permits within the same application. That's coming. Also, we can do operator rounds. We can do logs. Remember, you can have a log of oil, refrigerant, all these things. And then we have something called contractors. So let's just click on mechanical integrity, and I'm going to look at something real quick just to kind of show you some different items within here. So here we can see that these are ITPM tasks that are due. The task is ER2 compressor vibration PM. The tag is C1, the work order, and then when it's due. So if I was to click on that particular item right now, what I see here is a couple of things that is very important to understand. One, I get the work order number, I see when it's due, et cetera, but also have a little button here that says click to open process safety information. So if I click that button right now, it tells me everything that I need to know about that compressor and information on that compressor. So where is that valuable? Remember we talked about earlier the fact that knowledge is power. Right now, I can actually see that I have some things in here clicked as a manufacturer's unknown, model unknown, etc. One of my ITPM tasks that I put in every one of the steps is to verify the process safety information. So they can actually go through this information and find whether or not all of this is correct or not. If it's not, then one of the things that I will in a step is I can actually have them do an action item. If you noticed, I went back here, I can, if this particular step, rather than verify coupling bolts are in place, let's say we'll verify, this step was verify process safety information. If that step was there, I can now verify that information. If it's not correct, I can have them click this follow-up action button right here and create an action item. So the action item will be facility based. And the reason you're seeing multiple facilities right now is I'm a contract user, so I can be in a number of different facilities, a number of different processes on our test site. So and so that's where the information can be updated in terms of process safety information. So I go through all of these different tasks. I can make comments in here. I can take pictures. I can add pictures. Say if I want to add a photo of something, I can add the photo of that issue, and it gets added to my application. So I can also take a picture of something. If I want to take a picture, it's going to take a picture from my mobile device and add it to the individual item as well. All of my steps in here, everything that I want that operator or technician to do would be in this ITPM task. And I create all of these in the application, the web application itself, and it sends it to here. So I can make it do everything that I want it to do. So if you're in a gas plant and you do API 570, 510 inspections, all of that would be built in your ITPM, and that could be sent to your third-party contractors. They complete all of those items. It's automatically uploaded into your system, or you can have them create the ITPM task as a contract user. They look exactly like their typically forms would look like that they receive from you already. And then you can tell them if you find any issues and items, here are the people that you would need to sign those to, because we can go in and reassign those to anybody at any time anyway. Or the other option is, let's say that you get a spreadsheet in return, and a spreadsheet comes back with a bunch of action items. We can import all of those from the spreadsheet as well. So again, this is the MI piece. Again, operator round. So we can do an operator round here. So we can do a daily round, weekly rounds. All of this information we can upload directly. The thing about it is we can also go back and look at any previous rounds. So if it's any previous data, we can actually look at that too. So we can go back and we can set and determine how many days we want to look in the past, maybe up to 5 different days that we can look on our mobile app in the past. Okay, from a mobile app standpoint, you do not need, there's no requirements to be connected to the Wi-Fi. So the only requirement is that you need to be able to download the initial data. So for example, I can leave my office in the morning. Everything should be synced to my mobile device. I can spend the rest of the day executing ITPM task and not be connected to a Wi-Fi whatsoever. All of that information would be saved or included in my or saved on my mobile device. And then when I come back in range of a Wi-Fi, it should automatically and will automatically upload and sync to the application, to the cloud. Or if it doesn't, you also have a little button at the top here that says sync data. You can do that as well, but we don't find that we ever have to use that. Again, you can enter all your log information that we talked about earlier. Secondary media, you can add what you added, when, pH, different elements within there. And then also, again, we can do your contractor injury illness reports or injury illness reporting. We can add a log here so we can provide all the information about what happened and everything right in here. Because remember, that's one of the requirements is to ensure that you're doing a contractor injury and illness log or keeping a log. Also, again, from the mobile app is where we'll do all of your contractor who's qualified to work in your facility, but also conduct your actual evaluations within here as well. Well, it enables you to select which contractor you want to evaluate, and also select the employees that you actually did the evaluation on. So I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint presentation. I'm going to go here, stop that share. Okay, I'm going to open it up to any questions that anybody has right now. If you have any questions, feel free to, I've got to find my Q&A. And if we want to, if you want to ask a live question, let me know and I'll unmute you. And I'm going to actually allow everybody to talk right now. So everybody's kind of unmuted. So if you want to talk right now, certainly you can do that. So. Okay, so anybody have any questions that need me to ask away, and otherwise we'll give you a couple more minutes. You should be able to see your screen right now. If any questions, you can certainly give me a call or send me an email, either one.
Hi, I have a small question, Rick.
Yes.
Yeah, this is Saeed. I'm a process safety engineer working for a steel manufacturing facility. So, other than for the operating companies, this tool, is it possible to use for like consultancy purposes?
Yes, and actually, we have several clients that use it in that regard. So they are a service organization that they use this for all of their clients. And yeah, absolutely, it's designed for that as well.
Okay, so like if I want to go to do audit on a different client site, I can just use this tool to do the audits.
That is
Yes,
correct.
okay,
Yes, that is
okay.
correct. Yeah.
And for the PHA part, it is just going to keep the data intact, or can be used as for doing the PHA or running the PHA session.
Yeah, you can actually do the whole PHA within the application itself.
Okay.
And you can upload your own risk matrix or develop your own risk matrix within the application. And we have, it is set up such that we do risk ranking prior to safeguards and after. So and has all of the recommendations. The recommendations are automatically imported into the action item module when the PHA is complete as well.
And any specific PHA technique it utilize, or like all are HAZOP or something like that?
Well, it's really designed to be a simple application from a PHA standpoint. We can do a what if. It's really set up for what if and a modified HAZOP.
Okay.
So when I say modified HAZOP, we still do all the nodes and everything else. It's just how you ask the question, no flow, more flow, etc. Just how you set it up.
And same goes for like accident investigation. Like, does it generate a report if I try to put data for an incident investigation type of thing?
Yes. So within the investigation itself, or in the incident reporting piece, how that works is essentially you have somebody generates the report. So somebody is reporting an incident or spill or whatever the case may be. Then it goes to the person that does the review. So that person that reviews that report determines whether or not it needs an investigation or not. Okay. If it requires an investigation, then they assign it a person to do the investigation. So then that person that's assigned completes the investigation, uploads all of the information and documentation of that, and then it goes back to get approved. So it goes through all of those processes.
Okay, now other than the technical part, like for commercial point of view, the amount you have showed like 15K to like 68K like that. So this is based on like how many licenses or how many users are going to be there, or also the size of the facility, complexity of the facility, things like that.
Yeah, we do pricing is based on obviously the number of facilities that the company has and processes. So for example, we have one consultant that has I think they have 18 different facilities. So they are the company, and they would be considered the company, and then the facilities fall under them, and then the processes fall under them. So we would do the subscription is based on how many facilities you have, and then how many processes you have.
Okay, it has nothing to do with the number of users then.
No, number of users doesn't matter.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's the whole point here is we want to be able to make sure that the users at the facility level or the process level have access to that information. That's the important part. They need to have access to that. So we don't want to limit the number of users to that.
And what about the security issues? This is a cloud based, so like there will be lots of company specific data will be in the cloud. So is it reliable?
Yeah, this application runs on Microsoft Azure, so
Okay.
Very reliable. We have never had any system crashes or anything like that. I think 2 years ago, Azure went down for 10 minutes or something like that. But obviously, a lot of people use Azure, including eBay and some of the other bigger companies. So.
And you have a technical support team, and if needed, they can help with that.
Yes, yeah. So we have almost 24-hour support from an application standpoint. So certainly, if we have issues that need to be resolved right away, those are resolved right away. And then we always have suggestions of improvements and bugs and stuff like that need to be addressed. We address those fairly quickly. So.
Okay, and that's all I had for the asking. And thank you for this very informative session. And let me see, I will try to convince my people in the management, and if possible, if I get something PHA, and also it is managing all the information, and then the way you explain about the incident investigation related things, as well as contractor safety management training, everything is all together, then yes, I think it's a good tool. I might get back to you later. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you, Sid. I appreciate you joining us today.
Yeah, thank you. Bye-bye.
All right. All right. Take care. Okay, y'all, if we don't have any more questions, unless somebody else has a question, be glad to take it. If not, thank you so much for joining us today, and hope to see you for the next webinar. Take care.